When we talk about AI and war, it's so easy to jump straight to science fiction. Terminator, Skynet, the whole deal. But we're going to get a lot more specific here. We're looking at the very real risks, right now, based on what the experts are saying about how these systems are already changing conflict. Let's dive in.
And this, really, is the question that kicks off this whole discussion. What actually happens when our own tools start working on a timescale that leaves human thought, human wisdom, and human doubt completely in the dust?
That quote from defense expert Paul Shary, it absolutely nails it. The real danger here isn't just about AI making a missile more accurate. It's about speed. It's about how AI just crushes the timeline, creating a terrifyingly clear path to a war that nobody even wanted.
And that leads us right into our first big idea, what we're calling the AI speed trap. This is really where the whole problem gets started.
Okay, so just think about it. A crisis is blowing up. Normally, you've got some time, right? Time to check your intel, for leaders to get on the phone, for diplomats to find some kind of off-ramp. But AI can accelerate that whole cycle so fast that those safety nets, they just disappear. Speed feels like a huge advantage until you realize it's a trap that's locking both sides into a fight. So, okay, speed is the trap, but what does that actually do to the people in the chain of command? Well, that brings us to our next section, and we're going to see how this all leads to losing control and, just as scary, losing proof. And this, right here, is the million-dollar question for military law and ethics in the 21st century. I mean, when a machine serves up a target, where in that whole process is the real, moral choice to use lethal force actually made?
And what's so fascinating here is how this frames the whole debate. If an AI spits out a target list and a human operator just clicks approve, did that person really decide anything? Or are they just rubber stamping a choice made by an algorithm they can't see, can't question, especially when the clock is ticking?
What makes this whole thing even trickier is a well-known psychological trap called automation bias. You see, in really stressful, high-pressure situations, we humans have this natural tendency to just trust the machine, to go with its confident answer over our own gut feeling. And that's not a character flaw, it's just how our brains are wired.
And wow, this quote just perfectly lays out the legal nightmare this creates. Our entire system of military justice is built on being able to hold a human being accountable for their decisions. But as law professor Mary Ellen O'Connell points out, you can't cross-examine an algorithm. Accountability becomes a total sham.
So what you end up with is this accountability fog. When something goes horribly wrong, say a hospital gets hit, who's to blame? Is it the commander who clicked a button? The contractor who wrote the code? The government that deployed the system? When everyone can just point a finger at the machine, nobody is actually responsible.
This fog, this lack of real consequence, is dangerous enough. But now imagine what happens when two adversaries are both using these super fast, murky systems against each other. As we're about to see, you can create a powerful escalation machine.
Now, the key thing to get here is that we're not talking about a sci-fi robot rebellion. Not at all. We're talking about known, totally predictable ways that these systems can fail. And those failures only get worse under the stress and chaos of a real war.
We already talked about automation bias, but then there's something called data drift. That's when a model trained on old data just stops being reliable. You've got adversarial manipulation, where your enemy could literally feed your AI fake data to trick it. And maybe the scariest one of all, false certainty, where the system tells you it's 99% sure about something when in reality its logic is completely broken.
And as the Nobel Prize winner Thomas Schelling warned us decades ago, this whole situation creates a terrifying strategic trap. When both sides are racing to be the fastest, the time for talking, for de-escalating, for finding a peaceful way out, it just evaporates. And in that world, accidents stop being accidents. They become destiny.
So far, we've been focused a lot on the tech and the strategy. But we can't forget about the people, right? The actual human beings involved in all this. And that brings us to war's hidden human cost.
So here's a really dangerous paradox for you. The more precise and surgical we make war seem, well, the less costly it feels. And when violence starts to feel cheap, leaders might just be more willing to use it. It stops being the last resort and starts looking like a pretty good first option.
And for the soldier at the console, the cost is enormous. Psychiatrist Jonathan Shea, who's an expert on this stuff, he warns that when killing becomes a clean, procedural, dashboard-driven task, we lose that essential human friction, that thing that forces us to really grapple with the moral weight of what we're doing, and the result is just psychologically toxic.
So what on earth do we do about all this? how do we manage this incredible and incredibly dangerous new power? Well, it all starts with framing the problem correctly. And that brings us to our final section. This is not a tech test.
The security expert Bruce Schneier just puts it perfectly. The biggest danger isn't a super smart AI, it's a black box. A system that's making life and death decisions that nobody can explain, nobody can check, but everyone has to trust. That's the monster in the room we have to deal with.
Okay, so what can we actually do? Well, we need guardrails. First, we have to be super clear and define exactly what the AI is and isn't doing. Second, we have to demand proof, verifiable tamper-proof logs that can be audited. Third, and this one is so important, we have to intentionally slow down the loop, build friction back into the system to give humans time to think. And finally, we can never, ever confuse being technically precise with being morally right.
And all of this, everything we've talked about, it all boils down to one final, absolutely crucial takeaway.
Look, we can't uninvent this technology. The real challenge here isn't about writing better code, it's about our rules, our laws, our wisdom. This is a test of whether we can actually govern our own creations before they lead us all down a path none of us would ever choose.